Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
My name is Judd Kaufman. I own Gold Dirt Distillery and the Stage Stop Pub in Rollinsville, soon to be open for both of those two things. We've been around for a little while now. Gold Dirt was founded in 2016, and we had a little tasting room over on the west side of Rollinsville. Through our 1 or 2 days per week interface with the locals and a few visitors, we got to know a lot of people around the area, and we live in the town of Rollinsville. The Stage Stop came up for sale, and we just couldn't not buy it. So we purchased that with the goal of opening up a distillery pub. We were just going to spit polish it, kind of just give it a clean and maybe a new paint job or something, and open up the existing space, and then COVID hit. And as we were cleaning up the building, we discovered, expectedly, that the old girl needed a lot of work. So with the uncertainty, we just decided to do a larger remodel and improvement, fix some old kind of ad hoc repairs that didn't age so well, probably. The end product will be really, really something to behold and be a real accomplishment for the staff here. To actually pull this off. We have a limited budget. We're not made of money, so we're doing this. A lot of sweat being poured into this project at the moment.
So for those that have been before, what will change and what will stay the same?
What we're doing, we're not trying to turn it into something completely new or just reinvent it or anything. We're keeping things like the wheels, the old bar, which, unfortunately some previous occupants over the years packed it up so that modern bar equipment would fit underneath the bar top. They've removed a lot of the more decorative features on the back bar. So we're actually going to be working with old photographs of that stuff to make it like it originally was. And that's going to be a major project of all on its own. And in fact, we're trying to make it a little bit more historical and evocative of the area and the mining history and all of that sort of gritty Rollinsville appeal. We're trying to accentuate the area itself, not really kind of reinvent it into something that it might not be. Well, since we ripped out a lot of walls and electrical and plumbing and all of that sort of stuff, we need to conform to building codes. So we have to do a little bit of structural, we call it mitigation, but I'm just going to say reinforcement. That floor upstairs that bounces up and down when people dance in rhythm, we're not going to be able to keep that bouncing part, for better or worse. Some people think that's great. Other people seem to say, "Oh, I'm going to miss that," and kind of look at them up the side of my eye when I say that. Yeah, so we have to do some structural mitigation, and that actually is putting a big question mark on the when part of it. Hopefully, we'll be able to open sometime this summer. That is our goal. That has been my goal for a long time. It's like the money pit. It's going to be open in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks from when, I'm not sure. We have stagestoppub.com, and that's all hooked up to our Instagram, and at least once a month, and usually more often than that, we do some sort of update on what is happening with the Stage Stop. And hopefully that'll, kind of keep people interested and give them a little bit of the information that they want to have. And I promise, as soon as we have a real, reasonable date from a professional, I will be trumpeting it from the highest pulpit I can find.
So we asked him for a little business history as well.
My wife, Chrissy, and I, we got pregnant and we were in Chicago. We decided to move out to Colorado to start a little distillery. time passed, things happened, and I found Rollinsville. Decided to put a very, very small kind of one-man operation distillery in Rollinsville. And that actually turned out to be a very good idea. It's just the people around here are very interested. There's a fair amount of tourist traffic, and we were able to do this with a reasonable overhead. It's not crazy expense-wise to do this sort of business here.
And of course, that makes the spirits here special and unique.
Two things I like to specialize in. The first one is one of my favorites, is gin. I make 2 basic gins. One of them is my own recipe. It took me about 10 years to formulate it. Finally came up with something that I just think is great. It mixes well in cocktails. It's great on its own, and it's called Rocky Mountain Gin. It's more of an American-style gin. It's got all the juniper you could want, but then it also has amped up things like coriander and a lot of the floral components of the botanicals. I don't think you're going to find another gin quite like it. It's my pride and joy on the gin side. We also make a high and dry gin, we call it. And it's very similar to the Rocky Mountain as far as the dry component of the botanicals go. But we actually just deleted almost all of the floral components, and then we added a little bit of sage and a couple of other more peppery style, more traditional style gin ingredients to kind of satisfy that more traditional desire. And I do get a lot of people that like that one a little bit more. It's interesting to see. There's definitely a very large group of people that love the Rocky Mountain, and then there's a lot of real traditional gin lovers who are really into the high and dry. So I feel great that they're both pretty well accepted. Then on top of those, we actually do some additional infusions, pretty similar to a lot of smaller distilleries that make gin. Basically, we take one of those 2 gins, whichever we think will work best with whatever ingredient we want to infuse. I do a pressure infusion process usually, like the lavender gin is currently the most popular. So we have a lavender gin, we have a rose gin, we're going to do a Swedish fish gin. And those we kind of just dream up. Like anything we might want to flavor a gin with, we're like, oh, let's try it. If somebody wants me to do bacon, we could fat wash bacon and do that. I don't know. Not that interested in it, but we might try it.
Thanks, Judd. And here's where you can find out more. Look out for the return of local music as well in the months to follow.
There's the brown spirit side as well, and that is a little bit more time-consuming and a lot more labor. So our ability to produce quantity of that is a lot lower. I do have a love for rye whiskey, and I spent about 8 years in Kentucky, and that's actually where I started doing this process, the distilling process. So I make bourbon as well. So we do blue corn wheated bourbon, and then we do a high mountain rye whiskey. And we're aging those right now. By the time the stage stop is open, we'll have that available at the stage stop. And we also make product called Honey Shine, Honey Spirit. We haven't decided on what we're actually going to call it. We've been calling it Honey Brandy. Turns out the federal government doesn't want us to do that. Once we figure out the actual name, that's kind of inconsequential. It's really tasty. It's basically mead. We distill the mead. We put it on oak, similarly to kind of a accelerated aging process that a lot of small distilleries use for rye whiskey. So it actually has a very whiskey backbone to it, like a strong oak backbone, but then it's really sweet. It has a very pronounced sweetness and honey character to it, and people love it. So I'm pretty psyched about that product. That's the majority of what we do. Now we also have the unicorns, and that's just kind of random stuff, whatever we decide to make. We've done agave, we've done rum that didn't really turn out like we wanted it, so we're going to give it another shot. But anything, we'll literally try anything. As far as the online stuff, really all of our social media is hooked into our website, stagetoppub.com, golddirtdistillery.com. If you want to access Facebook or Instagram directly, you can do that too. Same handles, Stage Stop Pub and Gold Dirt Distillery. You know, all that stuff is out there on the internet. Luckily, we have somebody in-house that seems to be pretty good at that. She kind of takes care of most of it, so I don't have to be hands-on with that, which I like, because I like making booze and doing physical creative things more than I like interacting with computers.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.